Alright, fourth episode and second episode for Natalie Valere. This is going to continue in the Age of Dust, the Third Era. Formerly, the Post-Calamity Era. I'm just going to rename the eras to make them a little less redundant, because I didn't like pre-Calamity, Calamity, and Post-Calamity. So the eras are now going to be the Age of Titans, the Age of Calamity, which is just modern time up to the Calamity, not during the Calamity. The Age of Dust, which is after the Calamity, as the dust settles. And then that'll be the first sort of Trinity, and the second Trinity would be the Age of Order, the Age of Rebels, and the Age of Harmony. I don't have any plan for this one at all. I'm just going to wing it and see where it goes. We left off with Natalie Valere staying at the Maple Shade Inn with Vikram, and that's where we're going to start off from. When Natalie wakes up, she looks around herself. She's in a small wooden room on a bed with white sheets and a single mattress. There's a nightstand with a note on it that says, "Talk to me when you're ready. Signed from Victor." And so she picks up that note and she crumples it and puts it into her jean pocket. She stands up from her bed and she walks over to a small window that's letting some light in. And she opens up the curtains to see more clearly outside. She sees a young girl running outside by a chicken coop. And she notices that the chickens are blue. And that's weird, but it's not the weirdest thing that's happened to her. So she leaves her room, and she hears some chatter as Vikram and his wife are talking at the counter. His wife, Betty, is cooking a morning meal for breakfast. It has some eggs and some bacon. And it seems like an otherwise normal breakfast. When Vikram notices Natalie, he asks her how the room was. It was good. I didn't really look around it too much, just fell asleep and came back out. Vikram laughs because that's funny. She did seem pretty out of it last night. Betty asks, "Who is this?" And Vikram explains to her that Natalie Valere came to their door in the dead of night with no transportation and talking about a lot of strange things. Betty says, "Maybe we should talk now." And Vikram says, "That's exactly what I had planned." So, Betty gets out an extra plate for Natalie, and the three begin their meal and their discussion. Natalie goes first. "Where are we?" Vikram laughs. "Well, if you mean in the grander scale, we're in Midland. We're a little south and to the east of Marina Bay, and this specifically is the Maple Shade Inn, which you can glean from the sign outside." Natalie nods her head. She's not familiar with Marina Bay. She's not familiar with the Maple Shade. But Midland, that's a whole continent, and that is where she has always lived her whole life. So she thinks maybe this is an alternate world or a different timeline. Maybe she's just reincarnated. That makes sense to her. This world, it's strange though. What about those blue chickens? Betty takes the lead on this one and answers, "Oh, it's weird, isn't it? Yeah, ever since the Calamity, everything's been changing so fast. I don't even know what color chickens are supposed to be anymore. It seems like they're something new every month." And this shakes Natalie. She asks, what is the calamity? And Betty explains, well, a few hundred years ago, the satellites fell. They caused a whole bunch of earthquakes. A lot of people died. The world's been weird ever since. I don't really know what else to say. I'm not a historian. And so Vikram adds on, yeah, it was some project from the old civilization that wanted to go up into space, those damn fools. Teaches them for not appreciating Elysium. Bring them right back down to good old Terra. Natalie. The satellites. You're talking about Project Exodus. Project Exodus, is that what they call it? I say, how do you know about that? But nothing else. And so Natalie has to explain. Well, I was in a car accident when those satellites fell. I don't think this is real. I'm gonna be honest, I'm pretty sure I'm still asleep. Because none of this makes sense. And they all laugh a little bit, but it's not joyous laughter, it's more nervous. Well, how could that be, dear? Asks Betty. How did you get into a car crash? You said you wrecked your car. That's consistent as a narrative, at least, adds Vikram. And Natalie says, yeah, I was driving home from work when, everything just started shaking. I lost control and I hit a tree. I just woke up in the woods last night. Vikram and Betty share a glance, and they whisper something to each other. Natalie doesn't hear it, but they look back at her with concern. Why don't you stay here a little longer? We're not going to say that you're crazy, because there are a lot of crazy things happening, and you never know who's telling the truth. Whether it's true or not, we think you might need help. And Natalie is taken aback by that. She's like, okay, I'm not crazy. I don't think. But I'm not sure if this is real, so maybe I am. And Vikram sighs relief at that because he doesn't have to argue about that. Something about this is crazy, and whether it's Natalie or the world, it's just all a little too much. Natalie Valere asks, do you need help or anything? I don't know if money still exists, you know? Like, I've got my wallet. It's still got $200. I always carried cash. My dad said I shouldn't, but I never liked cards. No, cash doesn't really do much anymore. You really are from the old world. And you're dressed like it. In jeans and a t-shirt. That's how you all used to dress up. We see it in pictures. There's still billboards around. And Natalie asks, really? Of all the things to survive, billboards. Because I'm not seeing many buildings. And Vikram is like, well, yeah, you gotta think they're so high up. Not many animals get up there. That's mostly protected, other than the rain, wind, and vines. Yeah, billboards made it. Not snakes though. Vikram laughs at that. Betty is like, oh, it's not that funny. And Natalie is like, there are no snakes? Of course there aren't snakes. They couldn't run from the... They couldn't run. And Natalie is finally laughing because it's just absurd. None of us could run. It was... You called it the calamity. None of us could run from the calamity. And Vikram just says, yeah, well, the snakes didn't have any legs to stand up with. Snakes couldn't stand up for themselves. They couldn't fight back. No legs. And Betty is just standing up, collecting the dishes, and she's ready to go. She doesn't give a fuck anymore. She's tired. Vikram is annoying. Natalie is weird. And her kid is outside playing with chickens, and she'd much rather go play with the chickens. So Natalie asks, okay, no, back to the point. Money. How do I money? Vikram, how do I money? And Vikram says, it's actually not that complicated. We're basically on a trading basis, and we use metals. So, like, we have iron nuggets, iron bars, gold nuggets and gold bars, silver nuggets and silver bars, and we just kind of just trade them, you know? Maybe we should have stuck with money, but the economy died. Everything died. Everything fell apart. We had 300 years to build up a new system, and there aren't that many of us. Definitely no financial advisors. We just went back to the barter system, really. I don't even know who carries the metals. Yeah, I have chickens. I sell room and board. I sell eggs. People bring me what they bring me. It's not like I leave to go shop. Well, sometimes I do. I like to go to Cedar Point. They have good wood carvings. Natalie's just overwhelmed with this. She doesn't know what the fuck anything is. Everything is confusing. Everything makes her head hurt. And she doesn't know where she's going to get precious metals to join the bartering system. Is there a job that I can do? Maybe I can just earn my stake here. I have no idea how to get into this. I don't know how to get started, did you? Vikram says, well, maybe you could just tell us about the old world. We don't know too much about your time. Seems like you don't know too much about ours. And we've got a daughter, Julia. You could play with her sometimes. Maybe teach her something. I'm sure your education back when everything was all put together was a little more constructive than... We have no education system. It's fine though, like we're good. Most of us can read. Natalie laughs. She's like, most of you, huh? Yeah, most of us could read too. Maybe things haven't changed at all. And Vikram finally laughs at that. He's like, oh my god. But, so, they do a little handshake deal. Natalie Valere is going to continue to stay at the Maple Shade Inn. And rather than payment, she's just going to be receiving meal and board. And she is going to have conversations and just tell about her life, learn about the modern Elysium after the calamity, and maybe help watch Julia. That's all fair. That's not too hard for her to handle. So with all that out of the way, she goes out to the backyard, and she joins Betty and Juliet. Hey guys, what are you doing? She asks, and Juliet has 3 wooden crates, and she's jumping between them and watching the chicken flock to her. Looks like she's got something in her hand that they want maybe seeds. And she says, I'm playing hopscotch. That is the weirdest game of hopscotch I have ever seen, declares Natalie. Do you mind if I look at one of your chickens? And Betty goes, go right ahead. So she heads over to the chickens, and they're not shy. They don't run from her, which is funny, but she's a little scared of that. Maybe they're going back to their roots as dinosaurs, you know? Huh, Betty? And Betty tilts her head. She doesn't know what the fuck a dinosaur is. Natalie laughs, and she picks up the chicken. It's not shy, and she knows she can't just be afraid of things, so she picks up the chicken and she looks at it. It's still white under the feathers if she lifts it up. It's just sort of an exterior blue coating. Weird. The feet seem bigger than they used to be, too. Not sure why. I'm gonna end this episode here. Just because I'm kind of spitballing it. I don't have more that I want to say from that. I think the next time I pick up with Natalie Valere, we're gonna skip ahead. I don't want to talk about the boring shit.